Alright. Hopefully, I don't have to introduce this game, but in case you never heard of it, for whatever reason, this is the original Final Fantasy VII. They did the remake, of course, a little while ago. Now they're on part 2 with Rebirth, and they're coming out with part 3 later on as of this recording. Um, but for Final Fantasy VII fans, they know that this is absolutely one of the greatest stories ever told in a video game, and possibly ever. I mean, it's just such a great story. And when I played this as a kid, I was just so enveloped in every detail. And then this scene happened with this floating guy named Bugenhagen. And it was such a surreal experience for me. I knew it was something important, not really to the plot, but definitely something important because I recognize, all the spirituality aspects of it. I didn't really know what it means, but I do know that it was important. In this scene, Bugenhagen talks about how the soul, like it says, returns to the planet, and how when we die, we decay, and of course, return physically back to the earth. But spiritually, he's also saying we return to the earth as well, and what the video game calls the Lifestream. And I didn't realize at the time, but this is exactly what Taoism really is about. The Tao is whatever you want to call the universe, God, higher power, whatever. They just call it the Tao. Tao. And I think what he's saying with the live stream, that's their way of calling the Tao. And he's saying that when you die, the spirit that gave you life returns back to the planet, returns back to the universe. And that's exactly what Taoism ends up teaching that I found out. This illustration that shows pretty much kind of gives that idea. When people die, when trees die, or anything living dies, it returns to the planet. And in turn, the planet uses that energy and makes a new person, makes a new life. And that cycle continues. And that's kind of what you see here in this scene. Of course, when that spirit energy is misused, as he says in this game, it's called Mako. And Mako is pretty much like a metaphor for oil, a metaphor for, using the planet's resources for our own use. Then it becomes destroyed. It becomes like tainted. Because we take the energy, use it for our own personal use, and it never gets recycled. It never gets returned back to the earth. And so the earth dies. And, I know people say, well, that's environmentalism. That's, just this game's way of saying protect the world. And yeah, I mean, that's true too. But on a deeper sense, it really is also about making sure we understand we are connected to the earth, that we are part of the world. We are part of the universe. We are all made up of the same spirit. And that's what really drove this scene home for me later on. I translated the Tao Te Ching a little while ago. By that, I mean a few years ago. And this scene, or this verse 16 from the Tao Te Ching, my own translation, is what I think is talking about. Be open to every possibility. Always stay in consistent harmony. Everything grows and shares the same spirit, and we see everything fall when they reach their limit. Plants take root and flourish for days, then they return from where they came. Returning to our source is harmony. This is all our shared destiny. Our death is going to happen. Accepting this truth is becoming enlightened. Rejecting this truth causes insanity, and reckless actions lead to misery. Becoming enlightened is opening to possibilities. Opening to possibilities is treating all with equality. Treating all with equality is being a sage. Being a sage is living in accordance with the way. Living in accordance with the way is being one with Tao. Being the Tao is never dying when you'll one day lose yourself. This quote goes a long way into explaining what enlightenment really means. And I think going step by step in it really shows what it is to be a sage. using Bugenhagen, Final Fantasy VII sage-like character to convey it makes all the sense to me. Becoming enlightened means that you are open to the possibility of death. And not just the possibility, you accept death. You accept that this body is temporary. And I think once you accept that, you know that you are returning to the world, to the Tao, or Final Fantasy VII's terms, the Lifestream. And that is what inevitably makes us all equal. Because being a sage, you treat everybody equal and you do not reject anybody. And when you live in accordance with the way, that is what it is to be one with Tao, to be one with the universe. And to know that even though you are sort of separated by the universe, being in this body, you know that's just a human construct. We are still very much a part of the universe, still very much a part of the Tao. And being a sage, you kind of understand this lesson. So I think that this game really does teach a lot of lessons, but this one hit hard for me as a kid, and honestly still does. And it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, that even more than just being individual, I am part of a larger structure. I'm part of a larger story. And it's comforting to know that there's something bigger than myself. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned as much from this game as I did. Peace.